Dear Jerry,
Yes, sir.
kind of a long background to get to my point. So, my 19 male relationship with my dad, 46, is a rocky one. He's an alcoholic, actively 11 years sober. And it's what caused my parents to divorce. I was 4 at the time, and we moved across the country back to where me and my siblings were born. So, throughout my childhood, he wasn't there, and it was hard. My mom worked 3 part time jobs just to pay rent and to get us food. We talked every now and then when I was a kid, but he was never a father figure. My parents' best friends, who I call my aunt and uncle, were kind of the last connection my parents still had together besides us 3 kids. My uncle was my father figure, taught me how to play baseball, helped me in life as a kid. Then my dad started to come back into my life when I was about 12. It was weird because he didn't try and still doesn't try to be a very big father figure. Yeah, he's my dad, and I call him dad, and I know he's there for me, but it's not a typical relationship, which is how I prefer it. But 3 years ago, my uncle suddenly passed away. It broke me. He was the first person that I lost that wasn't a distant family member. It messed up my football career. I still ended up playing some in college before I got hurt and dropped out, but I definitely lost my desire to play. And it kind of brought me and my dad closer. Because my uncle was on dialysis because of diabetes and he died from complications of his treatment, along with a spiral of other things. And my dad also has diabetes, so I didn't want to lose him too. Our relationship is good now, at least as good as it can be. But now to my point. I recently moved to the South, where people have a much more ideal looking family, and I've found it hard to try and explain all of this to girls I've talked to or briefly dated because in their eyes people don't get divorced or have extremely complex family dynamics. So I just want to know, how can I explain my family dynamic in a way that doesn't make me sound absolutely insane to people with a more traditional view? Because it's a big step to try and get past this point to get closer to someone in a relationship, and I find it really hard. I don't talk to anyone about my uncle. I've only talked to maybe 2 people about him because it's a very big emotional release for me. I'm a big dude, ex-football player, tattoos, so I don't really cry about a whole lot and look like I don't cry too. And that's about the only time I do. So how do I go about explaining this to girls I'm talking to?
First of all, big, brawny, tattooed doesn't mean that you don't have feelings and does not mean that you're not sensitive. Obviously, you are very, very sensitive. You know, I don't care if you're from the north, the south, the east, or the west. I know one thing, that as you meet people, everyone in the world has their baggage. To think that the next guy doesn't have a story is pure ignorance. We all have our story. My story, let me tell you, when I date and I meet a woman and she says, "Were you married?" First answer I say, "I've never been married." "Well, you have kids?" "Yes, I do." And then, the dynamic of how I got my kids is a little different than the average bear. And you just find that if you deliver the story, whatever it is, cleanly, concisely, right up front in the beginning, in your first intros, they know that 2 things. One, you're very honest and you're an open book and you're not going to shield anything from them. And if they can't take what you're offering, then they're not the ones to be involved with anyways. There's nothing wrong with your story. It's an American story. You came from parents that, for whatever the reasons of your parents' differences, your father did drink. He is, even though recovered, it caused a dynamic. There was another couple in your life, family, that you were very close to, and your dad went on his way for whatever his reasons to find himself or get himself sober or whatever was driving him to drink or whatever, all that, good word, mishigas, everyone should know the word mishigas means craziness, was that this other person was there for you. So the universe put your uncle there to be your dad, to be that person to get you involved. And when you lost him, you lost the interest of something that you shared with him because you were crushed. That's back to your sensitivity. And if a woman cannot find and respect you for your sensitivity, let me tell you, there's not a woman in the world that's not looking for a guy that's sensitive and has feelings, because that means that you're going to be sensitive to her and her feelings, and which is going to make her sensitive to your feelings. So don't be afraid to bare your soul. Be proud of it.
So sensitivity is key. We all love sensitivity. I think the logical place my mind would go next is when you're meeting girls, because that's what we're specifically talking to.
Mm-hmm.
When you're meeting girls, at what point do you think it feels natural to bring this up? Is this
it's not an opening dialogue.
No, but is this in the sense of when you start getting to these types of conversations, just lay it all out.
Yeah.
Just explain it for what it is.
I think what happens, at least when I've gone out, and I've been on a couple dates in 64 years. You get to the part, within a day or the first or second date, you start really, the first date you go out and you have fun. And they might ask you some very brief questions, what do you do and that kind of thing. By the second date, you're really getting, you want to really investigate who they are a little bit more. And my dates have always been more probing. And that's when they'll say, you've been married. First thing as soon as that conversation happens, I'm clear that I've never been married. Mm-hmm. And it's like, do you have kids? And I go, yes, I have kids. Well, how did that happen? Are they with one mother, two mothers, three mothers? So when all that happens, that's when I immediately open the door and lay it right out. So there's never a question. It doesn't come up later where somebody says, "Gee, you have 3 children," and you didn't tell me that they're not biologically yours. That you were with this woman for a number of years and you went through whatever you went through.
Right.
If you told me that, I never would have gone out with you. So that can never happen, that conversation, because I point blank lay it all out. I don't belittle or degrade my children's mother. She's a great mom. Our relationship just evidently wasn't what I thought it was. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. And we separated. We went our own direction as far as relationship. The one thing that did not go AWOL was the fact that we had kids, that I became part of their life. Morgan was calling me daddy. And I made her a promise. I said, when Morgan was 1.5 years or a year, and she started saying daddy, she says, she's going to call you daddy. You better be her daddy for the rest of your life. And I said, deal. Not a problem.
Yeah.
So it's good to be honest. And so bear it the way it is. Tell it clean, concise, and tell your story. And you'll only get more respect out of it. Nonetheless. And if they can't grasp it, trust me, I've had those too. And let them walk, because they're only going to be a problem later. Let them go away.
Yeah, and complex family dynamics are in no means a definition of you. You are still, no matter what, you're still a person here. You're still a human on your own.
I think what defines you is how you deal with it, and how you articulate it, and how you tell your story. Tell your story.
Well, and I have direct experience. I mean, I walked right into this. I walked right into a quote-unquote complex family dynamic. But at the end of the day...
How easy is it?
Yeah, Morgan just straight up went for it, told me how it was, and I was like, cool, let's go. Can't wait to meet him.
Yeah, and I told you I can make you disappear.
That's right. That was a good one.
I was telling about how well I perform magic.
Still here.
All right.